Are you still banned on TikTok? My Destiny account got banned a long time ago. Somebody hacked my Stephen Bonnell account. I don't know how. I didn't use it, I guess, but I got so TikTok sent me, I don't know if there's like a exploit or something with TikTok. So TikTok sent me, here's your verification code. Here's your verification code. Here's your code to log in. And I'm like, okay, somebody's trying to, because people try to hack my accounts all the time. And then I got one in Arabic, I think. Here's your verification code. And then the next thing was new device login detected. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I tried to log in and it was already changed. And I was like, oh, okay. So I don't know what, whoever, wait, what was my old account? It was like Stephen Bonnell, wait, this guy is the new Stephen Bonnell. He looks cooler than me. I mean, I'll give him that. I'm guessing this is just some random image though. It's not the actual person, but I don't know. Did Twitch ever get around to denying your unbanned appeal? Nope. It's still in limbo. They're thinking real hard on it, I'm sure. Okay, shoot me the link to whatever Hasan shit. Oh wait, hold on. Hi, what's up? I gotta be kind of quick because I need to fucking watch this shit today. What's going on?
Okay, I'll be quick. I'll cut all the fun conversations. Everybody go read Pragmatic Papers. The new one's out. The Great White Tur, he had an awesome article where he does 100 different ways that Trump has hurt America in the first 100 days.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's a real banger. I really liked it.
Okay.
Check it out. I just put it in chat. Follow up on the skunk, the Supreme Court of North Carolina election.
Mm-hmm.
The appellate court knocked down any necessity for vote curing. Also, the judge that wrote the opinion is a DGGer. He used your opinion, your argument that you can't change the rules after you lose the race.
Base. To be clear, yeah. I lifted that rule from a lot of the courts that were looking at the Trump election cases. One of the things that they had used for the dismissal of some of these was literally that they can the judge can tell your intent of challenging a particular outcome or challenging a rule when the challenge to the rule only came after you got an outcome you didn't like. Like a judge is not going to look favorably on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, they go into that. They did, footnote. They put a link to the stream and said this guy's on it. But then the GOP candidate, instead of taking this further on to the Supreme Court, he earlier today he dropped out in what some are calling like a little bitch.
Okay.
With his tail between his legs. So that was nice.
Okay.
Other exciting news: the Perkins Coie stuff. That the first law firm.
Oh shit!
You see this?
I seen that.
That was a long fucking opinion.
Oh no! Wait, I didn't see that one. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I saw a different thing.
Okay, it was like 100-something pages, and the judge just went through it. They did a really good job of laying out how all this, everything in the executive order is protected speech, that they are claiming that Perkins Coie did wrong. They're saying that security clearances can't be revoked in the way that Trump is doing it.
Can't be revoked?
Cannot. Yeah.
Okay,
they're saying that.
Wait. When you said everything in the executive order was protected speech, you didn't mean that Trump's EO was protected speech. You mean what they were trying to call it as legal behavior was protected speech. I mean, yes. Okay, gotcha.
Technically, it is protected speech, but
sure.
Yeah, I know what you mean. No. Everything that Perkins Coie did that he said was wrong, like they helped the Steele dossier, they represented Clinton. That's all super protected speech, and he's like, "Fuck off! You can't do anything like this."
Yeah.
Then the security clearances. He's saying so. The way that Trump did it, he said, just everybody from this firm, they're revoked. But the way the security clearances work, you can't broad stroke revoke a security clearance in that way. They have to be individual and expert.
Yeah, somebody. I hate that I granted this because somebody was I don't know. It was one of the lawyer guys I argued with that came on once, tried to say that like, well, people revoke security clearances all the time, or like if you don't want somebody to have a clearance or whatever for this, like that's totally fine. I shouldn't have granted that. I had a few people that emailed me who were like, that is absolutely not true. A security clearance is not granted based on your political opinion. Security clearances are granted because an intelligence department has vetted a person and said that this person, after filling out their SF-86, after going through the background checks, is a person that they can trust to share whatever level of security information with. The idea that you would revoke this on some political partisan basis is absolutely fucking absurd. I never should have granted that. I had two different people that emailed me that were pretty big on that. Like, no, this is not normal. You don't just start revoking clearances from people that you don't like. You're literally undermining your own security clearance process when you do that. The idea behind a security clearance, you're cleared for security, not that you have curried favor with the current administration. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so they do a really good job of discussing that. They go into, I don't know if you remember, he talks a lot about DEI and how that's a violation of discrimination in hiring practices and stuff like that. The court does a really good job of saying, one, that's the EEOC's job. If you want them to do something, you are not allowed to, you're not supposed to put it in a public document like this because they have confidentiality rights when it comes to those investigations. And there's a process by which you would file those claims.
Sure.
So why did you do it this way? This is so stupid. And so he knocked that down, said that, that can't be used against them, things like that. To be clear, this wasn't, I don't believe it discussed any kind of like defamation or anything like that. This is primarily for injunctive relief against any of the orders within the EO that I'm discussing. Then finally, the other big one that I saw there was the discussion of banning Perkins Coie employees from federal buildings. And there were even some examples in there that were pretty shocking to me of just like the next day or like within a very short time period after the EO, people were like showing up to federal buildings to like discuss cases or to negotiate things like that. And they just were told, no, you can't come in. And the government had some of the worst arguments I've ever seen, just absolutely pure bad faith.
Yeah.
And the judge goes, you literally have been unable to identify a single legitimate government purpose to do this. And there is also no like avenue of like government power in which you can do this, even if there was some kind, right? Like just outright banning based on where you work like that is just, it was super bizarre. So that was really good to see. You said you have something to do. I was going to go.
So
with a huge thing.
I saw something that I thought was kind of funny. So of the law firms, I don't know who this got leaked to. I don't know if it was The Atlantic or somebody else that was reporting on it. So of the law firms that capitulated to the Trump administration and said they promised pro bono work, apparently all of these law firms have admitted quietly to media that the way that these contracts have been written with the government, they don't actually have to take on any Trump cases whatsoever. They just have to identify like key areas and then they can choose whether or not they want to, and that these pro bono like donations of services don't have to be for any of the Trump admin or for anything that the Trump admin wants them to pursue, that they can just do like pro bono stuff basically as they had done it before, and that the Trump admin had written up these contracts in a really stupid way where they basically were able to scam the government out of this work. Did you hear about any of that?
So that, because that's like early on, we discussed it pretty early on where it was like, it seems like there's some kind of like trickery or play that Trump could do to try to get them to, like you said, like use it to his advantage.
Which he fully believes. He fully believes that is the case, because that's what he keeps saying publicly. He's like, I've got all these law firms that are now going to work for us and carry out our stuff. And all of them have said, I think everyone has said privately to, I don't remember which media or who was reporting this, but they said, no, that's actually not the case. We don't have to do fuck all for this administration.
Right. That's what I've seen that as well. But I don't know if I think that they've made some small statements like that, but as far as I have checked, and I haven't checked in a while, so I could be wrong. None of the text of those deals have actually made it out to see the light of day.
Yeah, all of this was stuff that was just disclosed privately to media. None of these are public statements. Yeah.
And the deal is like, if he could utilize them in any way to his benefit, they would have already been doing it, considering just how many fucking lawsuits they're dealing with. Like, did you see they had revoked all the F1 visas for a whole bunch of students in America, and then they just one day just came out and were like, all right, we changed our mind, you can have your visas back. And like one of the reasons they cited was, we have like 1,000 people suing us and like over 100 lawsuits, and we just don't have the resources to like, that makes it feasible to do this.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, well, that's incredibly pathetic for the government to admit.
Yeah.
And if you've got almost $1 billion worth of free pro bono work from these top tier law firms, why didn't you employ it right there? Unfortunately, whenever you're dealing with fascist or quasi-fascist administrations like this, right? The hypocrisy and the lack of logic and straight up lies. Unfortunately, identifying them has almost zero effect on the already like how they feel about the lie that they told. Right, like all of his supporters will go to their dying breath believing that those law firms are all currently working for the DOJ and, making sure that Trump is protected legally.
True, but I will say, like, it does matter that he doesn't have all, because, like you said, the resources at some point are actually going to start to matter. They don't have the resources to fight 50 trillion fucking lawsuits that are actually just, and it's just it's unhinged.
Yeah,
insane right
I
now.
agree. I definitely agree on that. And I spoke a little bit about this. I don't believe on here, but that when it comes to the judiciary, Trump he's approaching that point. Where operating without them is going to become more efficient than operating with them.
Operating without what?
The judiciary at all, right? Just saying,
Well, I mean, that's basically what they've already done, kind of, right? Yeah, is they're just trying to EO everything.
Kind of. But what I'm saying is, like, there's already been a motion to try to bring Article 3 courts under the executive. That's been introduced in one case. And then there was, there's,
Well, hello? Rip? What was this?
Matt's asking me a question about it. I didn't think it was up yet. So I'm curious. Did you guys
don't go through the courts at all?
Oh, wait.
And I think that, like, not in
a ton, but...
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay, sorry. Finish what you were saying. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, so I think that we're getting to a point where he's going to just, be either setting up fake courts or issuing orders that he doesn't want to go through the courts at all. And then on the other side of that, what he will find is that setting up that type of administration underneath the executive will also be too burdensome. So it's kind of in my mind, it's not an accelerationist to make things bad. It's kind of we need to keep going this way, make him keep doing these unhinged things because it's going to put him in a more and more and more inefficient way to run the country.
Sure.
Because the U.S. government is big and slow and it's designed to work a specific way. Him making things less efficient and things like that in the short term are bad and do give him some powers that are benefiting him, but ultimately will make it where he's going to just grind everything to a halt where unless he goes back to the way things were, nothing can get done.
Yeah.
No one's going to get paid. No one's going to show up to work and do it. So trying to find some glimmer of hope in there. Also, one last thing on, remember we talked about the Judiciary Committee and their portion of the big, beautiful bill?
Okay, yeah.
One thing that I'd missed that got slipped in like towards the end of it is they are trying to make it where no funds, I believe it's no funds allocated by Congress can be used in the litigation of contempt charges against the government. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it where it's the government explicitly will not prosecute contempt charges against its own members. So that includes DOJ, any members of the executive, stuff like that. So it's this big move to just undercut any possible contempt charges before they even get
Well,
out of the
that's
gate.
true. I would argue this is ultimately irrelevant because whether that gets passed or not, this DOJ is never going to prosecute contempt charges under their own judges unless there's supposed to be some semi-autonomous branch of the DOJ that does it. That does it. Yeah.
Right. Well, I believe then this also actually technically would. I would need to make sure on this, but I believe it would also make it where judges wouldn't be able to name prosecutors. Private prosecutors do it because private prosecutors are
gotcha.
compensated.
Okay. That would be.
Now,
Which is one
technically,
of
of course,
things,
they can do it pro bono, whatever, blah, blah.
Sure, but that's one of the things that Boasberg wanted to do. Yeah.
Right, and it's just these little. They're just taking out all these little options and road stops to make sure that they can have smooth sailing. So, I'll save my really long discussion about the Google antitrust lawsuits for next time.
Okay.
But yeah, good talking to you.
All right. I love you. Be careful.
Love you too.
Bye. All right. Wait, what is this?
The Destiny thing. I'm curious. Did you guys see the Destiny thing? Is it up already? Matt's asking me a question about it. I didn't think it was up yet. So is the Destiny thing up? So we didn't. It was interesting. We didn't go deep. There were opportunities for that, and he kept walking away from them. It seemed like he didn't want to argue. He didn't want to challenge me on anything. Every time I said something where I disagreed with him and went into it, he kind of said, okay. And no pushback.
Yeah.
Oh, you watched the stream live. Where did it stream live? So how can you see it live?
Is that the chest noise?
So
wait, this is the chest noise, right? Is that part of his?
how can you see it live? Because it wasn't on YouTube live. So
He's grinding his light chest.
he said he was tired today and took a nap directly after. I mean, I think the best thing about it was it introduces me to his audience, and it opens it up for me to contact him when there's something interesting going on in the world, and we can and it's worth talking about. So it was live on his YouTube channel, and then he takes it off when he's done. Not like me, who leaves it up, and I guess puts the thumbnail and everything in, and then releases it again. Because I noticed that he doesn't have live videos on it, so that was interesting. Anyway, I was on the show. We mostly we agreed when we disagreed. He didn't want to push back at all. I'm curious. Did he say anything afterwards? Did he like it? Did he comment on it? Did he say no, that was stupid? What did he say at the end after I left? But I'd love to. Even when I said something about rational egoism, he says, "Yeah, in my personal life, I'm kind of a enlightened self-interest. I believe in that. I'm self-interested." It was like he wouldn't agree to disagree. So on Israel-Palestinians, we kind of disagreed on some of the stuff, but he wouldn't push back on the stuff I said. Like I had to go, he said, "Oh, I disagree with that." And I had to go, "Well, what is it? What do you disagree about?" He was very passive in that way. It was very strange. So Matt says, he said there were policy things he disagreed with that he could have gone deeper on, but was too tired to. Well, that's not great. All right, well, I think that leaves an opening for me to go back to him on a particular issue, right? On a particular issue, policy, and then try to broaden it from that to a more deeper discussion, hopefully when he's not tired. Hopefully when he's not.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem. I think I told him as much. I thought the conversation was enjoyable. I have no problem going to talk about other things. I just, his political philosophy of, I won't say libertarianism because he doesn't like that descriptor, of, how did he describe himself? He said he doesn't like libertarianism. He said he likes the phrase laissez-faire capitalism. I wouldn't mind getting into any of that, but that's going to be a whole philosophical discussion that I absolutely did not want to have. I was tired, but even regardless of me, even if I wasn't, that's like a thing I need to be like emotionally and psychologically prepared for, because that's going to be a whole ass thing that I just didn't. Yeah, I didn't feel like having that right then and there. But I mean, I told him I enjoyed the combo, and I did. So maybe in the future, if we want to do a big thing on that, we can do that. I'm gonna grab a Red Bull, and we're gonna do this. Hasan, what is this? Hold on. XC's going viral on TikTok for music. Yes, music is DJ, Tonal, beats are all over the timeline.
Oh, never heard.
People keep asking why he sounds the way that he does. I believe that the hardest noise that we pronounce in the West, I think is the R sound, ra, and I think there is a speech impediment called rhoticism, I think. I don't know why they always put the letter that you have a difficult time pronouncing in the thing. Like if you have a lisp, they put the S in the lisp. But I think rhoticism is where your R's come out as more W's, and that's why his things sound. So I don't know if everybody's just like fucking shitting on him for that. It's kind of cringe, but. Oh, I also had no idea why. I should have looked up more, but I was so busy. I've just had so much stupid shit going on this past fucking week. There was so much. No, not there was so much. Somebody tagged him on Twitter, like we were like, "Oh, you and Destiny should debate this" or something. That's what it sounded like. And then when I started listening to this guy run through like his Trump stuff, I'm like, "Oh, okay, this guy's like relatively principled in his libertarianism / laissez-faire capitalism." So the very simple disagreements over Trump we're probably not going to have. So then, what is the point of Yeah, we're not. What is the point? We're just not going to have this disagreement. So any disagreements we're going to have, we're going to be really, really deeply rooted philosophical conversations. Yeah. Which I was not psychologically prepared for that. Somebody said, how'd you feel about yesterday's event? I thought it was interesting to say the least. Also wanted to say thanks for the photo and short combo we had after. Would love to see you back at UTK. Oh, I thought it went fine. I don't know why Andrew pulled out. The organizers, I think, were kind of upset. I don't know if I can. I'm not leaking anything. Apparently, Andrew felt like they weren't upfront with the topics or something. I think Andrew wanted more. Of like a religious debate, and I think I wanted more of a policy debate. And when I was going back and forth with my emails, I was like, there has to be something here grounding this out in policy. I don't want to just have like a religious theocratic debate because fuck that. And I thought Andrew agreed, and I think they thought he agreed, but then apparently he felt like they pulled a bait and switch or something. So I don't know. Yeah. Did you shake the pirate's hand? I don't know. That pirate guy was apparently screeching. There were like group chats and shit that I saw leaked where he was like, I'm going to confront Destiny on all of his allegations. Yeah. And it's like, okay, dude. So I don't know. What is this?
They have a shelf life because they don't have the same fucking stubborn nature that I do. They don't have the same interests as I do. They inevitably become their own worst enemies. They inevitably cook themselves.
You guys disagree on a lot of economic stuff. Me and Yara and Brooks, we'll end up disagreeing on a lot of economic stuff, but it's because we have deep philosophical disagreements probably about the function of government. So that's where the conversation would have to go, which is a different type of thing than just policy debate.
You might think you're riding high on the slop for a little bit. You might think you're getting showered with praise. An army of anonymous Redditors telling you you're brilliant. But at the end of the night, when you go home and you sit down
Jesus.
and you look yourself in the mirror, you're not going to recognize who you've become. That's it. It's turning into a lolcow of a different variety. That's what I think.
That's so mean.
Was it?
No.
I mean, I think it's, well, I mean, I guess the
pretty
truth.
accurate.
I think the truth is what's mean. Sometimes it needs to be said.
Jesus. By the way, this is not cut up. That's his actual reaction.
This is why it's Orientalist. To literally look at these dudes and go, oh no, they're fucking barbaric baboons. And
Don't laugh at his fucking stupid ass.
No, it's a Seinfeld thing, you know? It's Ty Lopez in the modern era. That's it.
I don't even understand half these fucking references. I feel like
Oh no. You didn't want to argue with Yaron on anything, even when he gave you explicit opportunity to on multiple occasions. It was very frustrating because the arguments we're going to have are not going to be on any surface policy stuff. All of it is going to end up being deeply rooted back into our philosophies on government and life. It's not a bad conversation. It's just one that I wasn't really. I didn't really feel like having at that point. Okay, let me grab a Red Bull and then we're gonna do this. Good luck.
song.
Little bro got the pink suit out. Oh boy. Oh, okay. Watch Ethan review the review. Bro, that's like a 5-layer deep react, okay? What's with the hairstyle? I combed my hair. I take a shot, I comb my hair. I feel like I will not change my hair for weeks, and every time it's like slightly combed differently, or I just get out of the shower, people are like, oh my god, why is it so different? Do you have beef with Tectone? He seemed upset with you for some reason. Did he? Do I? Do I have beef with Tectone? YouTube version with timestamps. This motherfucker uploaded a 9-hour YouTube video? What the fuck?
Let me blast. This isn't junk food, by the way. I think that in this...
Oh, A's moved to tomorrow, because I told Dan I wanted to see if I could watch this before, so I'm in a position to react. He said, you're grumpy a lot of the time. That's not beef, just him being a MAGA populist dipshit. Oh, probably because he's making disparaging comments towards lay Trumples.
process, you guys will find a bunch of instructive, informative talking points. I feel like reacting to the context nuke from my former podcast co-host is most likely going to be a much more productive setting, considering that I have...
Guys, India, Pakistan doesn't matter, okay? Don't talk about it. Don't worry about it. Nobody's going to give a fuck about it. It's brown versus brown. It's colonialist versus colonialist. It's religious minority versus religious minority. Nobody in the West is going to give a fuck about it, okay? That literally might be the end of our civilization when these motherfuckers start nuking each other. However, there's not an easy lens to view that conflict through, so nobody will care and nobody will say much. So good luck. Also, if for people ask me for my opinion, I do not know fuck all about the history between Pakistan and India, so I don't have an informed take on it whatsoever. Yeah, so maybe maybe we'll read about that. We'll see.
Have the capabilities of pausing, inserting my own clips if I choose to do so. It will most likely be an infinitely more productive process than trying to have a debate, because these are all of his
epic
gripes
debate
that he has with me, and this is what he thinks if I show to my stream will end my career. Now, the content...
Can you reiterate very clearly that Hasan has absolutely watched this content nuke at least 3 or 4 times, start to finish, and that this is not his first time watching this? His reactions are fake. Okay, thank you, Dan.
Content nuke itself is long, okay? It's called the content nuke. I call it the context nuke. I've called it the content puke in the past, but I feel like it's the context.
Oh, when he calls it the context nuke, he doesn't mean that it's a nuke with context. He means it's a nuke that's leaving context out. Ah, very, very clever, Mr. Piker. Very clever, okay.
Nuke. Now, I've yet to watch this thing in its entirety. As you guys know, famously, I chose not to.
There's no shot that is true. He's definitely watched this.
And, you know, the reason why I'm doing it now is because Ethan, in his endless conquest to destroy anything and...
Damn, does August add sound effects? I want sound effects like that. What the fuck?
The reason why I'm doing it now is because Ethan, in his endless conquest to destroy anything and everything that people hold near and dear to them for the simple crime of criticizing Ethan lightly, gently, or aggressively, as a matter of fact. Ethan has chosen a path of death and destruction, pretty much, perpetually claiming that he is the victim of unjustifiable attacks by many parties. All of them were fans of his, by the way.
Are the Israel trip interviews with the politicians not released? Listen, August has had those, okay? Talk to August. He's got them.
For many, many years, or directly were friends of his and content creator collaborators of his, whether it be iDubbbz or even someone like myself. As you guys know, I had a podcast with him for 2 years that ended after October 7, but I'll let him tell that story in a second. But the reason why I chose to watch this is because
it ended after, it was a bit after October 7th, right? They still went on for a couple months, didn't they? Did it really end that quickly after? I don't remember. I feel like it went on for at least a month, but I might be wrong.
But I'll let him tell that story in a second. But the reason why I chose to watch this is because I wanted to fundraise for iDubbbz's charity that was under attack. iDubbbz will explain his side of things later as well. But him and Anissa basically relinquished control over Creator Clash 3, a boxing charity match that they had put together 3rd year in a row after Ethan got Lena to drop out. She was supposed to fight. Lena is one of the employees at H3 Productions. And also another fighter, Harley, also dropped out because he was upset and offended that Ian and iDubbbz dared to criticize Ethan. So I wanted to.
It's such a bore. It is boring to even answer or talk about this because I feel like it should be obvious. And then it's getting boring to give this disclaimer every time because I also give this way too much. But why can't we ever just say like why people are actually upset? Well, I know why. You can't say it because then it makes it seem like their anger might be somewhat justified. But it's like, Ethan's mad just because people are criticizing him. Oh, man, he's mad. It's like, no. We're all big boys. We've been, well, at least me and Ethan are. I don't know. I guess Hasan's a little newer to the internet than both of us. But like even Hasan, you can say is a big boy. Like we've been here for a long time. You can criticize us. If you couldn't handle criticism, I don't think Ethan nor I, nor even Hasan would be here for as long as we've been. So this idea of presenting it as like, oh, they're just mad because they're being criticized, like really fucking cringe. But all right.
And also another fighter, Harley, also dropped out because he was upset and offended that Ian and iDubbbz dared to criticize Ethan. So I wanted to use the full strength of this community to do something good, to actually fundraise. And we've already reached $30,000 in fundraising before I even started the fundraiser. So that's pretty crazy. And, we'll see. Maybe we'll increase the charity goal later down the line. We could.
Also, wait, just a quick question. If I request something, if I request 500 carbon, and then a rocket wants to take 500 carbon, will it take it from here even though I've requested it from here? Or will the requested stuff stay in here and never be taken out by another robot? Like if I were to request all the turbo transport belts, would robots take it from here? Or since this is on request, would they never take it from here?
Potentially do that. So thank you, Ethan Klein. Once again, your path of death and destruction.
Hold on, just as a quick thing before I ban this guy. Remember when Destiny said he doesn't cover drama anymore ever since he started Vyvanse? Funny stuff, man. So when I said this statement, what I said was my appetite for being personally involved in super dramatic situations has plummeted. If you've watched my content for any amount of time, you'll know that this is unequivocally true. I don't think I've been involved in any personal drama stuff on stream in like the past like year and a half, aside from Pixie's crusade against me for stuff that was from years ago. Okay. So number one, I just don't tend to have those personally dramatic people. Interpersonally, I'm not in relationships with these people, like friendship, business, whatever, otherwise. So number one. Number two, that doesn't mean that I've never said I will never, ever cover drama anymore. I've never said that. This is an imagination that you've created, a fiction of the mind. I don't know why or whatever, but so number two, that's retarded. Number three, sometimes you guys will call stuff drama, and it's kind of drama, but it's also heavily political as well. Like the whole Palestine-Israel stuff, like you can argue that the largest content creators in the space talking about it and their interpersonal conflicts related to it are drama, but it's not really. It's a bit more than that. It's kind of like saying that, like Trump's stuff with Laura Loomer coming in and telling him which people to fire in the intelligence. That's drama because like interpersonal. It's not really drama, so it's fucking retarded. But okay.
Is hopefully leading to something that is good ultimately. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado,
do fundraisers like this help anything with taxes? Can they use it in any way? Yes. When Hasan fundraises for this, it's a big write-off. It's a tax write-off for him, guys. In reality, that doesn't actually matter because the only reason he's writing it off is because you don't want to pay tax on money that you're just collecting and passing through to a charitable organization. But people like Hasan and all these other lefties constantly say, oh, big corporations just do tax write-offs for their charities, which is fucking retarded. It doesn't make any sense. But they say this all the time. So, hey, if you're going to say it all the time, I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe then you shouldn't do it, right? But, they'll never have the same standards for themselves, but whatever.
Present to you the content nuke.
The world would not be the same. A few people laughed. A few people cried.
Holy shit, it's the Interstellar guy.
Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture.
What?
Sorry to bother you. Real quick, I would recommend watching it on Twitch because half of the content's is chat. Because they go fucking unhinged in this.
Well, well, one, his chat is on the screen, and two, usually I full screen his video anyway. Do you think it's worth it?
Yeah, because you can scroll through the chat, whereas what's on screen isn't going to show everything unless you're going to pause like all the time. You can just actively scroll through it on Twitch.
All right, got it.
I bet.
Fuck that guy, whoever he is.
Now
Now we have no sound effects. Thanks.
line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
We think the Houthis are doing what Houthis
Shut up! King! Fucking bloodthirsty, violent pig dogs! Why am I held accountable? God forbid you throw up the fucking green Hamas banner.
Happy birthday to you.
I'm cooked, I'm cooked.
Happy birthday from Twitch, Hasan. Happy birthday from Twitch.
God, that's so cringe. Dude, how... Did Mike ever get banned? I'm so mind-fucked how on Twitch you could just have, like, super ultra open death threats, crazy weird anti-Semitism, blatantly supporting terrorist organizations. I don't understand how the TOS or whatever just literally means absolutely nothing. It's wild, but okay. Jesus.
So far, so good. Pro Luke, why am I making this?
Oh, hi there.
That's me. He's watching me play Marvel Rivals in the background. Okay,
Me,
cool.
your old friend, Ethan Klein. It's been a while since we've last spoken. In that time, I've had 3 kids, all boys. I've lost 100 pounds, and I've pissed off 75% of the internet. Probably a lot of you guys too. Actually talking about there at the NRA meeting that's today in Texas. Someone should bomb. Oh yeah.
Why is Hasan watching this video months after it released? Why is he watching it? If I had to guess, because the reaction to the content cop was not quite what he wanted it to be, maybe, and now he feels like he needs to take it a step further. I don't know. That's my guess, but that's my guess. I'm not sure.
And I got a tattoo also, so I'm cool like that now. Left or right, I always thought that despite our differences, there was one thing we could all agree on. And what was that? That we love America and everything she stands for.
Mom and Dad and apple pie.
Sure, there's plenty to criticize and endless things to improve, but I thought it was about making a more perfect union, not tearing it down.
And marching bands, a pride that
He literally said he'll pull in his clips when needed. He's been preparing to react to this for ages after his 50th off-stream watch. Oh, it could be that maybe he's been preparing, and it took a long time, but not this long. I don't know.
The thing is, there's something kind of scary brewing in America. Communism.
Do you think covering apologies like Pirate Software, etc., and criticizing them damages your character? Because if you ever apologize for something, you come off as manipulative. When do I don't think I usually criticize people for apologies, do I? Or what do you, I don't know what you mean by that. If people genuinely apologize, I think it's, no, we just literally went over the, Dr. Lupo guy. And I was like, oh shit, this apology was so good. Now it's like the drama's dead. Yeah.
Communism.
That's America. That's America to me.
I started a show a couple of years ago with my acquaintance, Hasan Piker. You might remember him from...
Yeah, by the way, I do want to point out something here. This is January 31st.
Holy shit, January 31st.
2025 was when this video was released.
Okay.
January 31st, 2025. Yeah, I disliked it.
Crazy.
I ripped it already. Gotta do it for the one time. There was something brewing in the United States of America at that point. Do you want to know why I say this? I point out the date.
Yeah,
because the thing that was brewing in America was not communism. I know he's trying to make a joke, right? He's, I think, trying to make a joke. But we were already deep into the insanity of the Donald Trump Burger Reich administration.
I want to be careful when I say this. Here's what I emotionally want to say. I don't know if I would qualify this more on thought. If you don't vote, I think you lose a lot of the right to complain about a particular thing. I would say as an influencer, if you don't encourage your audience to vote, I think you lose a lot of righteous indignation when it comes to criticizing a particular thing. Hasan not completely and totally and openly and avowedly supporting Kamala Harris as a candidate and continually trying to draw a false equivalency between the two over and over again makes me not really care that much about him saying like, oh, Donald Trump, oh, the Donald Trump stuff is really bad. It's like, okay, I mean, yeah, people like me were saying that. Other people were saying that. You seem to not think it was as big of a deal as it was, though, because in your mind, both parties were the same. So I don't know why you would try to appeal to that right now as some kind of out for your behavior, but okay.
At this point,
whoa. Do you believe Hasan when he eventually told Ethan he voted for Harris? Somebody DM me on Twitter. I don't know how true this is, so take it for what it is. Somebody DM me on Twitter and said that Hasan had a conversation with Mike Israetel, and when he was talking to Mike Israetel, he said that he didn't vote for Kamala Harris. I don't know where that clip is. The person didn't link anything. Maybe he thought he heard that and it's not true. I have no idea, but that's, yeah.
I was in Japan escaping the fascist administration rising to power, but at this point it had been 11 days since Elon Musk had dropped the Sig Heil twice at inauguration. Okay? We're 11 days into Donald Trump, and the reason why I point this out is because I suspect, regardless of the fact that I didn't watch the context Nuke, but I am very familiar with Ethan's commentary on the matter. The reason why I mention this is because Ethan has a lot of issues with figuring out his priorities, because a lot of what Ethan,
I don't know how much we're going to be doing this, the genocide talk, but one of the most disgusting things that people do, and by people I mean Hasan, is this very clever game of there's a genocide. We can't talk about anything else, bro, because there's a genocide. It's so gross. It's such an obvious and blatant and deliberate hijacking of that issue to try to silence criticism. Like, you can talk about many different things at the same time. Like, the idea that you would try to silence somebody's criticism of a thing because there's also some other international event happening is beyond fucking stupid. And also, the lefties respond with the exact same way when they're like, guys, we gotta talk about the genocide in the Middle East. And it's like, the one in Syria? No, the other genocide. The one in Yemen? No, the other genocide. For the Palestinian thing, gotcha. Stop pivoting. Those other things aren't relevant. Okay, gotcha.
Talks about in this video are values that he cares about, values that he wants to defend. Like, he's a fighter against anti-Semitism. He's a fighter against, like, right-wing attitudes and things like that. He's a fighter against extremism on all sides. And yet, it feels like what he chooses to spend his time on betrays that idea, betrays that value, that first principle that he's operating off of. Because if you're freaking out about anti-Semitism on the rise, I would assume that you probably wouldn't make an entire video and use your previously unused platform to attack your former podcast co-host, who you knew was not an anti-Semite, and you, I think, still know is not an anti-Semite, but sometimes you go back and forth on it.
Remember, if Hasan truly believed in any of this, Hasan would have very easily and very quickly squashed the beef between him and Ethan, and they would still have their show. So obviously some things are more important than politics or more important than the political realities of whatever's going on, because if this was the most important thing ever, then why did Hasan allow his relationship with Ethan to fail? Shouldn't they be super close friends and still be doing a show? What caused that to break down?
On it. And I know his response always is he can care about two things at once. Yes, but the thing that he's caring about is bullshit. And I think my response to this is going to explain to you exactly why the thing that he ostensibly cares about with respect to me, okay, or all the other people that he brings up in this context, Nuke, is ridiculous. Especially because whenever Ethan says, I can care about two things at once, Well, he certainly doesn't talk about the other thing that he's supposed to care about. If Ethan says, I care about the genocide, for example, and then spends every waking moment.
The problem is Ethan doesn't have to probably say much about that because he's already made his position on that pretty clear. It sounds like he, and personally I think he gives too much ground on it, but it sounds like he believes that genocide's happening and that it's bad, and what else is he supposed to say about it? Like, that's his position on it. But you guys are the ones that keep centering him and making it sound like he doesn't actually believe that. So of course that's going to be the thing that he also responds to. But
talking about those who speak out against said genocide, then it's kind of hard for people to go along with this ridiculous narrative that he actually cares about the genocide.
That's such a ridiculous narrative. True.
America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck it. I'm saying it. Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers in a video game. Sorry. Holy shit.
That's not what I said, you dumb cracker bitch.
And of course, the Leftovers podcast, which was our show, which we made broadly to goof on the antics of the right. Now, to be clear, I knew about all these edgy and controversial jokes at the time we made the show together, because who am I to judge?
There was Ethan Klein being a delightful human being.
I was just going to say...
Wait, somebody linked something. Hasan admitting he will not vote for Kamala.
As a unbiased political journalist, political commentator, I always try to tell you not what I think, but what the public wants to hear. And for that reason, I must reluctantly tell you that I will not be voting for Kamala Harris because I was riding with Biden. I'm the only one in America that was actually like, I need the 800-year-old carcass. I need him. I need him in my veins. I need him. Just kidding. Of course not, because I'm not a fucking idiot. All right.
Wait, I don't know why you linked this. It just doesn't show what you think it shows. You're retarded. Okay. Stop. Don't link me things if you're retarded. Stop.
If there's another Holocaust, if they start rounding up the Jews again, I hope Ben gets...
Okay, the Seinfeld references are stale, man. But that's an aesthetic note.
He presents himself as someone like me, a left-leaning Democrat who supports basic things. And we went on making the show.
Okay, right off the rip, let me get started by saying I have failed. I'm a failure. The reason why I have failed is because the Leftovers podcast was supposed to be a podcast where this man, who I thought at the time was an open-minded, empathetic, kind person, who was interested in learning, was on his own journey of learning, was supposed to be the goofs and gaps guy, and I was supposed to be the guy that gives them, you know, the meat and the bones. I was supposed to be the information guy. He's the goofs and gaffs guy. We clown on the right, and
I don't understand how you can give such a little political substance for so long, because Hasan's stuff is so devoid of political substance, of information substance, and feel confident like saying things like this. I would cringe. I would die of cringe saying shit like this if I did as little factual coverage as Hasan does. But okay.
Educate the audience as Ethan himself is getting educated by politics. But it seems like I failed on that educational aspect, considering that his analysis right off the rip is, well, you know, he's a left-leaning Democrat who supports basic things. What does this mean?
What does
this mean?
What does it mean? Fuck. See, now if I had prepared a preparation for his preparation, for Ethan's preparation for his video, what does it mean? It means the thing that Hasan tries to LARP as when he's trying to make appearances on mainstream shows. When Hasan himself on his stream is like, oh, I just want socialized healthcare and stuff, guys. I just want blah, blah. It's the thing that Hasan tries to present himself as over and over and over again. I don't know if there's a clip for that. He did that a few times after the election, I think, when he was trying to, because he wanted to be the Joe Rogan of the left or whatever. Even if he says he's not, he was obsessed with that title and he wanted it. But yeah, like he says it over and over again, like,
supports basic things. And
left-leaning Democrat who supports basic things? Okay.
We went on making the show for about 2 years and everything was good. Everyone was having fun. The audience was having fun. No problem. That was until this happened.
We were doing our regular show, and for the first time I noticed an inordinate amount of radical, hardcore leftists. I mean, I thought we were social democrats, not whatever this was.
Ethan Klein did not know what social democrats are or what that represents, by the way, before Leftovers. And I suspect he might still not know what being a social democrat is, even at this point. But let's continue.
I don't hate the idea of like people who can be successful. I think it's good that people can achieve success in the term monetary success. I mean, that's what that means, right? I do. You know, there's nothing.
I am not a hater of success. I myself am financially very successful. One of the largest points of contention with my existence
is that being left is when poor, LOL, but that's not true.
From many right-wingers is that, oh, you're a socialist, but you have money. How does that happen? So clearly, I don't take issue with that. There is no disagreement there.
Nothing wrong with that.
Because I see so many people in the chat saying no.
I don't know what y'all are tripping about. Like, what the fuck do you
What
want?
is the idea that
you guys
people
like
are looking for?
You guys are all like radical communists? There's that many radical communists? Suck it, chat. You're watching a capitalist pig. Deal with it. And then this happened.
This comment from Hasan really started to sound some alarms in my head.
If you're in a socialist country with multiple parties, and one of the parties is a capitalist party, which would surely exist.
Yeah.
What would you do if that party started gaining momentum?
The solution to that would always be education and offering more...
Re-education?
Re-education, certainly, yeah. There should be an enforcement mechanism.
Yeah, education. Here, I'll give you an example. What to do with the right-wing charlatans who are anti-vaxxers and unimaginably racist. I am a firm and committed believer in rehabilitation. And because I am a firm and committed believer in rehabilitation, I believe everyone can be rehabilitated, including right-wing reactionaries. So if you can understand that from the perspective of like getting your parents who are brain broken by insane right-wing sentiment coming back to reality through the process of education, then you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. The problem is, this is red baiting to be like, ooh, this is red terror. He wants to do re-education. Now, of course, many of the conversations that we had as friends and podcast co-hosts at this point are now being utilized in a nefarious...
Okay. When I go through this, I'm going to say what Ethan is saying, what Hasan's response is, and then what the response should be. This is all a pointless exercise in futility because I don't think Hasan cares about intelligence or anything. It's just so stupid. Okay, so, oh my God, he says so much, but then he says nothing. It's like a word salad. People in chat are saying this term, word salad. It's just like nothing. So Ethan is saying, if you had a society where you had a socialist government, okay, where the workers all own the means of production, and you had a capitalist party, what would you do with those people? And Hasan says, re-education. Okay, so what does that mean? Because that's a really scary term. That implies like the forced incarceration. What Ethan is saying and what Hasan is implying is the forced incarceration of people that believe in private property. All right? For the purposes of this conversation, listen to me. Private property, I'm going to use kind of like Marxist terms. Private property means any capital that's used to produce goods or services that's owned by somebody who is making goods or services. So, personal property is not the same as private property. An example of private property would be owning a restaurant or owning a machine that produces things. Personal property would be like your toothbrush or your house or your car, okay? So just to be clear on terms. So Hasan's response to this is a word salad of, I believe anybody can be rehabilitated, so it should be obvious what I mean in that. I don't know what he means in that. So it sounds like what Hasan is saying is that you're going to lock anybody up in prison that is a capitalist or forms a capitalist party until they're re-educated and forced to agree with your point of view. That's what it sounds like Hasan is implying, but he's too scared to explicitly own that. I don't know why he wouldn't just own it. Well, it's probably because there's a lot of eyes on him and he doesn't want to seem as radical as he actually is. I feel like if you want to give a better answer, if you're an actual hardcore fucking socialist commie or whatever, and you don't want to do this weird Marxist-Leninist tanky bullshit, then the answer should just be, in an ideal socialist society, private investment would be against the law. If you want to make a capitalist party or a liberal party that wants to push for that, then fine, those parties could exist in society, but private investment or private ownership would be illegal. They would have to try to pass a law to bring that back. I wouldn't forcibly re-educate those people. I would hope that the benefits of a society that exist that are so powerfully positive positive because all of the workers are sharing in the fruits of their labor because all of them own the means of production. It's so positive that people just either wouldn't vote for those people, or if they did vote for them, they wouldn't get enough support to pass laws to change things. Much the same that in a capitalist society, we don't have a law saying we're going to lock you up if you support a dictatorship. We're not going to lock you up if you support a monarchy. And then the same in a socialist society, we wouldn't forcibly re-educate you or lock you up if you believe in private ownership. It would just be illegal, and you'd have to try to pass a law to change it that way. This would be a much friendlier answer. You could stroke off the libs, and you could stroke off the socialists, and you'd incorporate everything into that nice and cute and neat answer, and you'd point to a better system. I don't know if he's just never thought about giving like a coherent answer before. And I'm sure if I sat and thought about it, I could probably give him better answers for this. But what a stupid fucking answer. I hate that he's implying something so extreme and he won't own it at all, but whatever. Okay.
Nefarious way to say, ooh, he really scared me with this one. Let's take a look.
And by the way, the reason why he said he really scared me with this, the reason why re-education is scary is because the concept of that very quickly evokes feelings of Mao and the Great Leap Forward, or Soviet Russia and the rush to industrialization that they did that amounted to, you know, tens of millions of people. How many people died in the Holodomor? And all of these like famines and shit that happened as people rush to industrialize too quickly, and they end up making huge mistakes, or they intentionally kill people for like the Great Leap Forward, you know, in the process to industrializing their country. But okay.
Look, and in that enforcement mechanism, I think like rehabilitation, which would include re-education as well.
If putting capitalists in re-education camps isn't disturbing enough,
This is, again, very scary.
It is.
It does not mean, he said capitalists on horribly racist. No, my point is you can understand the importance of education in that regard, right? Because a capitalist is not going to gain incredible amounts of momentum, but a capitalist might actually do crimes in the process. And if that happens, then yes, education and rehabilitation is absolutely a necessity.
Like, I don't know what he's... So in your society, Hasan, we would lock people up for doing crimes? Don't we already do that? Aren't crimes already illegal? That's why they're called crimes? Like, I don't even know what the fuck this word salad is supposed to mean.
It is a far more preferable outcome than actually throwing someone into, as Ethan Klein claims here, camps. I never said camps.
But you're saying prison for doing crimes. Ethan was clearly not asking about crimes. Ethan was asking about people that are ideologically compatible with your society, which... So I just mentioned the rush to industrialization and the resulting famines or the explicit killings of capital owners and stuff that happened in China and in Russia. Well, there's also the mass killings of the intelligentsia, of people that ideologically oppose the current administration as well, which is also an issue that leftist regimes faced, where they would kill people that they deemed as part of the intelligentsia that didn't side with the revolution. So Hasan's not really addressing the centrality of either of those points, but okay.
He said camps. Notice how he's guiding the conversation in the aftermath without me being able to respond, to lead you to believe that I want concentration camps.
Started to note if putting capitalists in re-education camps isn't disturbing enough, I started to notice that Hasan was carrying a lot of water for communist states' war crimes and genocides.
What do you call Crimea? I call it a part of Russian territory, bitch. That's what I call Crimea. I call it Crimea River. A Russian river. The annex.
Is he going to respond to the actual full context here? I suspect not. Is he going to actually broach the subject matter even a little bit? Probably not. Let's see. Let's see what else he puts here.
Is absolutely a justifiable annexation. Tibet was literally a fucking feudal.
Okay. Nope. Just moving on. Got it.
What was,
okay,
Ethan, what was the context that he was supposed
Russian
to
communism is hilarious. Russia, as I have maintained over and over again, is an irredentist kleptocracy. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is unjustifiable. There are a million different moments where I have described this process. I have fundraised for Ukrainian refugees to the tune of $200,000.
Fundraiser.
The invasion of Ukraine.
Fundraiser,
I
by the way.
do not believe
Hello?
that Russia is a communist country.
Hello. Fundraiser. Hello. Fundraiser.
At all.
Fundraiser.
It is an authoritarian kleptocracy. Why is he presenting this? Why is he presenting this information as though I believe Russia is actually in the right here? There is a difference that I have maintained over and over again. Russia's annexation of Crimea
Russia has a profoundly important military base in Sevastopol that it actually had a loanership agreement over with Ukraine even before.
So that's great that Hasan wants to add this context now. Okay, and I could be wrong. Someone wants to link something, prove me wrong. Go for it. But I don't believe he mentioned Sevastopol or anything back then. I think he was talking about the fact that Crimea ethnically were a lot of Russians, which was true. It's like a Russian talking point. And it's also true because a lot of Ukrainians literally starved to death during the Holodomor, and Russia liked to ship in citizens to new places when a bunch of people were dead for Russifying those places to give them a stronger claim over the territory. That seemed to be the argument that Hasan was rolling with initially. I don't remember him bringing up Sevastopol initially, but okay.
It actually overtook Crimea. But there's a difference between the annexation of Crimea and what took place in the aftermath of said annexation of Crimea versus what Russia is doing in Ukraine right now. Okay? As far as my stance on this, there's no defense of Russia taking any additional land.
There's also this issue of no additional land. Wait, additional from after Crimea? So he says Crimea was okay? I don't know what he means there. Sorry, real quick. Also, keep in mind that when he was having that conversation with Adam Friedland, he said he doesn't take a side also in the Ukraine-Russia stuff, which is like the easiest. It's the easiest thing to side against in the world. If you really believe that Russia is so unjustified and you're going to virtue signal that point, then why not just say like, yeah, I side with Ukraine over Russia? No?
Okay? This is a ridiculous act. And I have maintained the position that Crimea, throughout its historical process, under the USSR, even before then, has been Russified.
Oh, there you go.
This is precisely the reason why
you learned that word. Good
Western
job.
polls, not even like the Russian annexation and the subsequent quote-unquote democratic process that took place, but the pre-Russian annexation, before Russia's military incursions in eastern Ukraine as well, people that lived in Crimea were rather sympathetic to Russia already. This is part of the reason why Russian annexation of Crimea, while still unjustifiable under international rights and international humanitarian law.
Like, I don't know how long ago this interview was, several months, I think, but...
Who are you going for in Ukraine? What side are you on that?
I'm on...
So keep in mind for this, Hasan thinks he's surrounded by far more left-leaning people. These aren't sock dems or liberals or losers, right? He thinks he's kind of with his own kind here, right?
I'm on nobody's side. I mean, I think Vladimir Putin's bad, and what he did was wrong.
You think Ukraine guys are like pissed?
Like you hear the virtue signal there, right? Like, I'm on nobody's side, Putin bad. He's doing the equivalent, I don't know if you can tell, he's doing the equivalent of Orange Man bad here. When Republicans are like, Orange Man bad, huh? Orange Man bad, right? He's like, oh, Putin's bad, right? Yeah, Putin's bad, right? Maybe not as a strong signifier for support of Putin, but definitely is a signifier that he doesn't support either side. But he'll say the line, the PC line, the virtue signal line he has to say.
Gaza?
I would be.
They're like, damn, they're clout sharks.
Yeah, they're in a weird predicament because like Zelensky is like super pro-Israel.
He's John Stewart. He's the John Stewart of Ukraine.
That's true. He was. He used to be.
Yeah.
But he's like has to be super pro-Israel because like he's pro-NATO. He's pro like American State Department, right? And that's what the American State Department is signaling, that they're like super pro-Israel. Meanwhile, in the early stages when Russia was invading Ukraine, Zelensky was like, hey, can we get the Iron Dome? Like, that would be nice. They're fucking shelling us like nonstop. And Benjamin Netanyahu was like, fuck no. He stopped it.
You know all this stuff?
Yeah, it's our tech as Americans. Like, it's our tech to give to Ukraine. And Benjamin Netanyahu was like, nope.
You know how I feel about Ukraine versus Russia?
How?
Sounds about white, dude. Not my problem. That is not my problem.
Yeah, so I don't know why, I do know why. I keep saying that. Hasan just won't own anything ever, but...
was done without a single shot being fired in the process. That's why I always separate Crimea and the annexation of Crimea as opposed to the completely ridiculous and incredibly violent invasion of Ukraine.
So the takeover of Crimea was okay because they managed to do that in like a blitzkrieg, relatively non-violently. So that was okay? Okay.
In the aftermath of the annexation of Crimea, Ukraine shut off the waterways into Crimea by damming the waterways that were designed under the USSR into Crimea, making Crimea even reliant on Russian, making Crimea basically reliant on Russia. If this in and of itself, beyond the unjustifiable land extraction, land annexation, outside of the fact that the land annexation is still unjustifiable, if there was an opportunity for Ukraine to be able to salvage Crimea, it would have taken place already. Okay? I don't know why people still try to... I don't know why people still try to relitigate this process.
The conversation, it's complicated for him because he knows that like it's such a one-sided conflict that like it's kind of hard to both sides of this, right? Whereas like for Israel Palestine, it legitimately is complicated, and there are readings of history that are fair that can put you on either side pretty deep in. But for this conflict, it's a lot harder. So it's very frustrating for him to have to kind of like talk around this because he has to do a lot of mental gymnastics, and the arguments are pretty weak that he's giving. They're not very great arguments, like, well, Crimea wasn't that bad because at least they didn't have to kill a lot of people taking it over. It's like these are not. He knows these aren't great arguments.
Trump has already offered Crimea with a legalized annexation to Russia. Now, as far as Tibet, let's see what he puts here.
Mandate,
So
autonomous zone.
China did them a favor.
That was one. I mean, in America, when I say something like this, people get very upset. We talk about the Dalai Lama saying "suck my tongue" or whatever, but like that's not far from the norm in fucking normal Tibetan existence before the Communist Party came in.
Also, you can't say that you were opposed to something when you start giving all the justifications for it as well. So he's doing it with Tibet. He did do it a lot for Ukraine because remember. If anybody has clips of it, show me it, because I don't want to simulacrum you like fucking Hasan and Vosh do to me. But I believe Hasan was talking quite a bit about that Azov battalion Nazi shit as well, which was a huge Russian talking point, right? The Azov battalion. It's Azov. Remember Azov, guys. So if you're going to do all these talking points, it sounds like you're basically just justifying then why they did this takeover in the first place. So then why are you even acting like, it was only okay in Crimea, but whatever.
And
so China unilaterally took over Tibet, their culture. They basically are trying to,
No one is culture is slavery. I don't know why.
What?
Like he brought up culture. There is no slavery culture here. From a Western perspective, this immediately rings alarm bells. Where it's like, well, you're making the British Empire had to permanently occupy India because they all have had a barbaric culture or whatever, or that the United States of America had to tame the savages. That is not the argument here at all. Okay? That is not my argument at all. And while there are issues with the continued sovereignty over Tibet that China has had, Tibet being a part of the Chinese empire in perpetuity and having some semblance of autonomy throughout even the nationalist process, and certainly under Mao as well, has been the same thing since the fucking 19th century.
I'm sorry, my brain's just not, I don't even know what he just said. I don't even know what he's...
It was the Tibetans themselves that wanted to rise up against the feudal land ownership. It wasn't simply just Chinese annexation and occupation.
You have to be careful when you say stuff like that because a lot of the quote-unquote U.S.-backed coups and U.S.-backed fighters were also people that wanted to rise up against other people as well, right? The Shah or whatever was... we installed the Shah, right? It was against the prior administration in Iran for that revolution. They weren't popular. That country was having a lot of issues too. Before the United States tried to, or successfully, I guess, help to depose the regime there. Same thing with, there was one other example. Oh, in Afghanistan, when we were helping the Mujahideen, that was a revolution that the Soviets were trying to push and install there. The people there weren't happy as well with what the Soviets trying to do there. And I'm not to say that the United States was right or wrong in any of these. I'm not passing any normative judgment. I'm just saying a lot of supporting coups are supporting some group of people that genuinely have a feeling about a thing. It's not really a good justification. Or if it is, you have to wield it evenly at least.
It was actually an abolition of serfdom in Tibet. This is no different than other Han Chinese areas that were previously occupied by the nationalist forces, where once the Maoist forces took
the Viet Cong too. Maybe I don't know anything about in terms of history of Vietnam or Korea to give you any kind of perspective. I wouldn't even risk saying anything. So
over a lot of the peasant class that was under the rulership and even fought alongside the nationalist forces defected. The reason as to why they defected was because they wanted to restructure Chinese society completely. Because when faced with these two options of working with Mao, working alongside Mao, and rewriting the rules of Chinese land ownership, they, of course, chose a universalized land ownership structure rather than going back to the nationalist-dominated previous landlord ruling over the peasant class structure that they existed under. It is not different. What happened in Tibet is also not different. What happened afterwards is, that is a certainty. Because Tibetans...
Like, all he's doing here is basically justifying imperialism in some circumstances, which is fine. I mean, I'm sure we can probably think of times in history where some level of imperialism was probably okay, right? Some invasion, some type of, intervention. But I mean, like, he would never, ever, ever grant this for the other side,
Tibetans still, as far as I understand, maintain a lot of love and a lot of support for the existing Dalai Lama, regardless of the fact that the CIA actually used that to their advantage, gave a lot of money to the Dalai Lama. It doesn't matter. Tibetans like the Dalai Lama.
Jesus.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay? And there are contemporary issues in Tibet right now as far as Tibetan sovereignty, Tibetan culture, and these are still significant problems. But if we're talking about the way that the Chinese annexation of Tibet took place, it's not the same as China coming in and taming the barbaric Tibetans. Tibetan serfs did not want to be serfs. They did not want to continue existing within the peasant structure where they were being dominated by landlords, their landowners.
Homogenize the culture.
If your culture,
they're trying to spoil the religion and the identity.
The part of feudal warlords and slavery, abolishing that, yes, I do think that is good.
No, China did them a favor.
This is a good way to describe Taiwan as well. The American federal government going into the fucking South and killing, unfortunately not all of them, but a decent amount of slavers and defenders of slavery. This is violent retribution from a powerful federal government that squashed, okay?
Tibet is the South in the Civil War?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Based.
The previous serfdom structure.
Here is
Ukraine.
Hasan talking about Azov.
At the fucking ballot box, they are not represented. But in the media, God, oh my God, if you look at Western media, you would think the entire fucking nation, even if you look at Russian media and their propaganda, the entire nation of Ukraine is full of fucking Nazis, right? But in America looks to those Nazis and points to those Nazis and says, these are brave Nazis that are trying to defend Ukraine, okay? But it's like this is the template, okay? America takes one of the most awful, insidious, reactionary elements and arms them and legitimizes them and uplifts them until they literally do end up getting more fucking national prominence. It has happened time and time again. And whenever I mention it, whenever I bring it up, like the Mujahideen, whenever I bring it up with respect to like Gladio, or whenever I bring it up with like Latin American countries, Nicaraguan death squads, right? You're like, oh, dude, that's whataboutism. No, it's not. This is exactly what America has done historically and is trying to do in Ukraine currently. It's the same thing.
Is backing up the Azov battalion. We're trying to back up the Nazi death squads in Ukraine. Yeah. So, okay. So this was so he's lying. He wasn't ever in favor of Ukraine fighting back ever, way back 3 years ago.
It's the exact same thing. And they're doing it. And they're doing it over and over again. But for some fucking weird reason, no one recognizes it.
Yeah, and is it similar to the coverage of Cuba? Yeah, that's another great example. Thank you, Crumbum. Thank you. Remember when everyone told me I was a fucking piece of shit for actively denying the revolution that was ongoing in Cuba, and then I showed you that even fucking Fox News was
structure, and it's not Tibetan culture. I think it's like ridiculous to say it's like. I think this is akin to saying like black people in the South, it's just a part of their culture to be enslaved. That's not the case. Okay? That's not the case at all. The reason why I try to use this analogy here is
Hasan.
because it was initially an action of resistance against the the feudal serfdom structure in Tibet.
Yes.
And most disturbingly, a complete whitewashing of the Chinese genocide against their Muslim minority group, the Uyghurs. Don't they have Uyghur death camps? Is that?
It's not a death camp. They were re-education camps, and they are no longer in operation.
Is that
according
true?
to the Associated Press?
Okay.
Everything I said here is correct. I don't know why he put this in the video. I assume he's not going to make an argument against this and instead simply claim.
Why is he going to say, I assume he's not going to make an argument against this when you've prepared notes, you've watched this whole thing? Like, why are you pretending like you're just watching it? Okay.
That it's a genocide that took place and he's hiding it or something? I don't know. Let's see.
I saw this crazy documentary, and I don't know. I don't know the surrounding narrative or anything about it, but it was about there was doctors in the area. They would be able to procure organs.
No, no.
I'm telling you, they were in China with
that one is like Shen Yun.
Okay, so he saw a documentary this was the conversation that took place. I don't even remember the full details, but he's saying that he watched a documentary. I immediately suspected it's probably like a Falun Gong documentary. Falun Gong is a right-wing anti-Communist Party of China cult that's anti-miscegenation. They're the ones who also own Shen Yun and Epoch Times and numerous other media outlets that are super far right, and they work alongside the CIA. Having said that, this does not mean that there is no repression in Xinjiang. Of course there is major repression in Xinjiang. There was a lot more.
Do you think Hasan is clearly lost it at this point? He genuinely cannot be saying that Tibet is equal to the South in the American Civil War. There are so many variables that are so obviously different, and he's talking about it so matter-of-factly as if it was the same statement. Yeah, remember, for these people, the thing that you're supporting is ideology. Facts are just kind of like the playground that you have to kind of like put together the pieces to make it work. Like imagine facts are kind of like your Legos or your Mega Blocks, I guess for this guy, that you're trying to put together to piece together, some ideological argument. That's all it really is. At the end of the day, it doesn't really care what's true or not. It's just in service to the ideology. Also, holy fuck, this is boring.
Major repression in Xinjiang, especially a couple years ago. For those of you who don't know, there is an East Turkestan separation movement in Xinjiang. Okay? Some of the Uyghur Muslims, many of them also trained by the CIA, some of them are in Syria right now, wanted to separate from China, mainland China. In the process of enacting their separatist goals, there was a lot of knife crime, a lot of terror, and the Chinese government, in my opinion, completely, in the most ridiculous ways possible, enacted an unimaginably cruel regime of surveillance and also cultural erasure and also concentration camps, but re-education camps, where they claimed that these were simply vocational retraining schools, worked to actively and ruthlessly re-educate the Uyghur Muslims.
Nice.
Okay,
Get that Middle Eastern pronunciation.
They bullied an entire population into submission.
You're so real, bro. You're so real
There was
for that.
mass surveillance that took place, and also I have never said that this was acceptable. I've never I've never considered this to be appropriate. I am always critical of this. This is something that a lot of people get mad at me over because they say, where did you learn all that? Did you watch a documentary too? They'll say Adrian Zen's propaganda. It is still completely unacceptable. It's ridiculous.
A lot of people get mad at him. Yes, dude. You get so much pushback for this point.
What I'm doing here
Sure.
against Ethan is recognizing the truth of the matter. So let's take a look.
I feel like we could get you an organ from a Uyghur. But why is that? Is that really that crazy?
The Associated Press quietly fucking wrote an article that didn't get a lot of coverage in mainstream media about how, like, okay, well, you know, all the concentration camps have been closed now. Like, all the re-education camps are closed now in fucking Xinjiang, and it's like very different vibes in Xinjiang. And now, you know, it's the tourism hour.
Let's see what the Associated Press actually had to.
Why is China invading Tibet to end slavery different than the Spanish invading Aztecs or supporting those groups who existed under Aztec oppression and West African slavery and the British? Yeah, really simple. It's because they fought alongside the Tibetan communists, and then they fucked them over in the process, but they initially fought alongside the Tibetan Maoist movements.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there were natives that fought alongside some of the invading people. I don't think that necessarily justified it, and I think most of them got fucked over at the end as well, right? I feel like that's probably a closer analogy than Hasan would like to admit, but I don't
That's
know.
the difference. That's it. You're
Spaniards
also
mostly use
comparing
native soldiers? Okay, that might be
a foreign invasion coming in to the Aztecs thousands of miles away to an autonomous region that was already under Chinese rulership. And the previous Chinese rulership did just simply overlooked the structure of serfdom. They didn't give a shit. They were like, yeah, the Dalai Lamas can do whatever they want. They want to fucking chop an ear off? That's great. That is the real problem here. Because it's not like Tibet was not under a autonomous part of China. It was an autonomous region that was still under Chinese rulership. It's just that the previous Chinese empires did not care about what the fuck they were doing to the Tibetan serfs, to the Tibetan peasant class. And also on top of that, even the Nationalist Party did not care about that same exact landlord slash feudal serfdom structure that existed in Tibet. That's a major difference, don't you think? That's a major historical difference.
Don't you think?
Having said that, however, I think that there are still many issues in terms of not giving enough autonomy to Tibet or not cherishing certain aspects of Tibetan culture, Tibetan language. This is a real problem in China. This is a real issue in China, okay?
Real as fuck, guys.
And then there's the second side of this. In terms of the historical, reference point, is you're failing to understand my point here. You said the Spanish fought alongside the anti-Aztec local fighters, with the majority of the fighters. Tibet was loosely under Chinese rulership, but never Sinicized. I know. I'm not saying that the Sinicization of Tibet is the appropriate measure. I'm saying it's actually the part that I'm critical of is precisely that. But what you fail to comprehend here is that what came in the aftermath of this was not a reassertion of the same serfdom structure. They didn't do that. They didn't just go back to the land rulership structure in Tibet, but now with Chinese ownership. Do you see what I mean? And also, the relationship between Tibet and Chinese sovereignty is, of course, entirely different than the relationship between colonial Spanish occupation over the Aztecs.
Okay.
There is not hundreds of years of being under Chinese rulership despite having autonomy. And also, what happened in the aftermath of that is important, don't you think? There wasn't slavery of the Tibetan masses conducted by the Communist Party of China. Anyway. Hasan, I can see the fear in your eyes. Maybe we should call it on the content nuke. That's so funny. All of these people that have been begging for me to watch this are now finally coming in to be like, you shouldn't watch this, actually. I feel like you're afraid.
Uh-oh, he's already getting triggered by chat. Oh, no. Wait, what is this? Hasan makes Ian think.
Stubborn nature that I do. They don't have the same...
I like this without the music thing or whatever, because I didn't realize that it was unedited initially. Or was it? Hold on.
Stubborn nature that I do. They don't have the same interests as I do. They inevitably become their own worst enemies. They inevitably cook themselves. You might think you're riding high on the slop.
Oh no, this is still an edit. Apparently Ian literally is just sitting there staring awkwardly while Hasan is saying this the entire time. Sorry, okay. Back to our good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
Anyway, let's keep going.
Does Hasan make a good argument here regarding Tibet? I don't know enough history to understand. Considering that the history of Tibet and everything is, my guess is going to be probably even more complicated than Israel-Palestine, since the Israeli-Palestinian history is so short-term. And I feel like history is a lot clearer in the past 100 years because our documentation and everything is way better. I wouldn't trust any of his older historical takes ever. I would never, ever, 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 ever trust I would never trust any of these. But also, I haven't studied that region as well, so don't quote me too hard on any of that. So, but I wouldn't trust any of it.
Yeah, I'm still being a coward.
To say about this. These are all AP articles from the last 2 years.
It's also ignoring that Spain practiced slavery in Mexico. Like it would be the same if China. It would be the same if China went in. Okay, no collaboration whatsoever, no demands whatsoever from Tibetan Maoists and Tibetan.
I will say that I know just from the history that I do know him saying no collaboration, acting like collaborating with people there. Again, the Mujahideen in Afghanistan were people that the CIA was collaborating with there. Those were real people that lived there. They weren't all just white Americans that were shipped in to fight against the Soviets. Those were real people that had real feelings and real beliefs about that, about what was going on there. So I don't know why he keeps bringing up stuff like that. Like that, is that the difference? So if there are actual people on the ground that share part of your belief, then that means that all of a sudden that type of imperialistic overthrow of some other government is okay? Because if so, basically every single coup involves some group of people on the ground that agree with you. Even Pinochet had some support among people, although I don't think we directly support him. Like everybody has some support to some extent. Otherwise, you're not going to have an army, or you're not going to have anybody willing to fight for you. It's such a stupid fucking. It's such a stupid fucking point. I don't know.
Communists that wanted to rid themselves of the antiquated practice of serfdom that was incredibly violent, incredibly brutal. Okay, and instead. And instead just reformed that exact same societal structure and continue to enslave Tibetans. But that's not what happened. So obviously, there is a major difference here. This doesn't mean that there is any sort of, this doesn't mean that it's great. I'm not saying that it is, okay? I'm simply offering some nuance to the way that people frame these conversations as black and white and try to make to make it work within the imperialist structure in the same way that you understand Spanish colonialization. Okay?
Okay.
Press actually had to say about this. These are all AP articles from the last 2 years. UK independent body reports China committed genocide in Xinjiang. China sanctioned a U.S. research firm and 2 individuals over a report about the human rights violations in Xinjiang.
It's the tourism hour.
To China's fury, UN accuses Beijing.
Okay, he pulls up a lot of these AP articles, and I feel like from all of the clips that I've seen on the Context Nuke, he basically does not go into great detail about these articles at all. I don't think he's read any of these articles at all. Many of these articles are basically from National Endowment of Democracy funded groups like NGOs that are playing a significant role here. Okay. Having said that, is there veracity to some of these claims? Absolutely. Okay. Some of the claims that he's highlighting in the headlines is actually correct. The problem is, and I don't know what when these articles are from or what these articles are actually featuring, but I would go so far as to suspect that he's making it seem as though the article that I was referencing, the article that I was reading, as a matter of fact, in terms of China's re-education and cultural erasure has ended, and that Xinjiang has now become a tourism destination. He claims that article does not exist, except here is the article. So while he was actually looking for all of these different article headlines that he could draw from, what happened? Did he just simply fail to find terror and tourism? Xinjiang eases its grip, but fear remains. This is the Associated Press article that I was actually reading and referencing to Ethan Klein. In that conversation, Xinjiang, China, the razor wire that once ringed public buildings in China's far northwestern Xinjiang region is nearly all gone. Gone too are the middle school uniforms and military camouflage and the armored personnel carriers rumbling around the homeland of the Uyghurs. Gone are many of the surveillance cameras that once glared down like birds from overhead poles and the eerie eternal wail of sirens in the ancient Silk Road city of Kashgar. This right here is basically the summarization of my summarization of the story is this article saying that they ended their operations. They ended their operations, and the clips that, and here's why I say he.
What is the? I thought the point wasn't that they ended their operations. I thought Hasan was saying that the operations like that were never even happening. Am I wrong or what?
He's fucking devoid of context. This is the reason why I call this the context nuke. The reason why I call this the context nuke is because he rips these clips, which I don't even know where he sourced them from, okay? Because I don't think he sourced them himself. I think someone gave him these clips because...
That's a projection. If he's saying that, it's because other people have given him clips, by the way, but...
If he were to actually, if he actually cared about understanding the nuance of this position that I'm presenting, he would recognize that some of the clips that he pulled out are literally directly from me covering this article. Here it is, October 13, 2021, Uyghurs in Xinjiang. Gone too are the middle school uniforms and military camouflage and the armored personnel carriers rumbling around the homeland of the Uyghurs. Gone are the many of the surveillance cameras that once glared down like birds from overhead poles and the eerie eternal wail of sirens in the ancient Silk Road city of Kashgar. Uyghur teenage boys, once a rare sight, now flirt with girls over pounding dance music at rollerblading rinks. One cab driver blasted Shakira as she raced through the streets. 4 years after Beijing launched a brutal crackdown that swept up 1 million or more Uyghurs and other mostly Muslim minorities into detention camps and prisons, its control of Xinjiang has entered a new era. Chinese authorities have scaled back many of the most draconian and invisible aspects of the region's high-tech police state. The panic that gripped the region a few years ago has subsided considerably, and a sense of normality is creeping back in.
What does he think?
Because he purposely limited the search to 2 years, so his article was left out intentionally. Now, Time and time again, I've actually railed against, as much as people say I'm a China glazer, which I am a China glazer, let's be real. Time and time again,
like, just so you know, like, I'm pretty sure Nazi Germany was ramping down on the concentration camp, death camp shit for Jews as well, right? Because eventually you run out of people to kill. Like, you hit your target demographic and you're no longer killing people. Is that an argument in favor of, like, I don't know, that just seems, actually, I don't know the status of the Jewish population. I don't know, maybe there were still many to go there. But, like, this is like such a weird argument.
I've actually brought up the unjustifiable practice of mass detention and mass surveillance and dragnets that were cast upon the Uyghur Muslim population in Xinjiang. I do not think it's appropriate, and I do not think it's acceptable. And I have made that very clear over and over again. I've actually made fun of the people that are so invested in defending China that they come in here and sometimes act like hogs. But for China, and say the exact same things that hogs say about Muslims and Muslim detention or immigrant detention in the United States of America, but this time for China. This is an age-old bit that I do all the fucking time. But if you were actually interested in the nuance or my actual perspective on this, you could have probably figured it out by, I don't know, doing a cursory analysis, just fucking Googling it, you know?
Damn.
He admitted on a stream that he got these clips from someone, but because I'm not insane, I don't have the clip of him saying it on me.
Okay. Pretty sure it would be on
Having said that,
one of the many subreddits that he likes to browse.
If you Google search Xinjiang Associated Press, that's the first article that comes up. Parentourism, Xinjiang eases grips, but fear remains. Now, there's some other articles that he's also sourced here, which I suspect he probably didn't look at. And I think it's important to understand the timeline here on what he's talking about, because he's trying to make it seem as though he's basically pulling articles from after our conversation to imply that that I was lying, that the Xinjiang detention had not ended. He's also implying that I'm actually in favor of this detention. I am not. I'm in favor of the truth, okay? So when I actually retaliate and say, no, those are not death camps, those are not like, you know, there's no like organ harvesting operation that's taking place, I'm simply combating against misinformation. This is what I do. This is my primary purpose, okay? In a lot of circumstances, it's usually right-wing misinformation. You guys love it when I do it to Joe Rogan, but you seemingly don't like it if I'm doing it to a liberal position, okay?
Ooh.
Uyghur County in China has the highest prison rate in the world. 1 in 25 people is in a Chinese prison.
It's the tourism hour.
48 Uyghurs detained in Thailand for almost 11 years are on hunger strike to protest their imminent deportation to China, where they face imprisonment or execution.
Not only does this AP article seem not to exist, reading the AP proved exactly the opposite.
So, again, he claims that this AP article does not exist. It obviously exists. So, what the fuck are you talking about? Here is the AP article. Here's a video of me reading the AP article. Why would you obviously...
The article seem not to exist.
Almost 11 years are on hunger strike to protest their world.
1 in 25 people is in a Chinese prison.
It's the tourism hour.
48 Uyghurs detained in Thailand for almost 11 years are on hunger strike to protest their imminent deportation to China, where they face imprisonment or execution.
Not only does this AP article seem not to exist, reading the AP proved exactly the opposite.
So, again, he claims that this AP article does not exist. It obviously exists. So, what?
Fuck, I'm too lazy to go and check the dates on this because this is so boring. Holy shit. Did this AP article exist when they had this contention with each other or when they were fighting with each other over this particular thing? Because it sounds like if Ethan had a problem with the stuff going on, the article that Hasan is citing here says that all of that stuff seemed to be going on and people are still scared of it. But you can hit your quota or your target for sterilization and then for repopulating it with your Han's Chinese citizens or whatever and then stop. But like that wouldn't further Hasan's argument there at all. Like,
what the fuck are you talking about? Here is the AP article. Here's a video of me reading the AP article. Why would you even put this in the video? What kind of research have you done? Also, none of this even proves your point, which was that you watched a documentary that I suspected was like a Shenyang or Falun Gong documentary that said that there were death camps in China.
What is this Falun Gong documentary? The only thing I've ever seen, like actually, it's not even a documentary, but it would have been it was the lady who did a Vice thing on. Is that part of that documentary? Where she goes to China to see some of these Uyghur cities. This is super scary. Some of these journalists are fucking wild, dude. But she goes here to try to find out what's going on, and like these cities are basically completely cleared out. The creepiest part is there was a... Can I find this? You can see like over a gate that there's like a bunch of kids being re-educated, I guess.
There it is. I can see people moving inside.
Fuck, I don't remember what it is. This is the only thing I've seen on this. I don't know. That other person he's setting, I guess, is... He really doesn't like that person.
See kids in there.
Oh.
So the best we can do is walk past this facility, but it is really bizarre that there are kids there on a Sunday, which suggests that this is not just a regular school.
Anyway.
None of what he has shown so far has said that there are death camps in China. Part of the reason why I don't think that he was able to prove his perspective in the conversation at all is because they weren't fucking death camps, and I was right. They were re-education camps. And I've never said that that was appropriate or permissible or acceptable. I've always been against that. This is...
I could be wrong, but I don't know if, like, Ethan might have just been misinformed or misspoke. I don't know if death camps were ever the strong claim against what was happening with the Uyghur stuff. I thought it was the forced sterilization and then the separation of children from families and then the forced re-education of those children to eliminate the Uyghur culture. I thought that was that was generally the argument. So Ethan might have misspoke, but I see Hasan is dealing a lot with that, the death camp argument, and avoiding the rest of the stuff, but okay.
This is the problem. And people will say, Hasan, we got you. You said you would be in favor of re-education. There's a difference between re-educating people who have done crimes in the process of rehabilitation.
This is such a fucking cop-out. Do people not hear this in Hasan's audience? When Hasan's like, I'm in favor of re-education of people who have done crimes. My friend, that's called prison. Everybody's in favor of prison. Why are you making arguments for the existence of prison? Yes, we all agree that people that commit crimes should go to prison. What are you talking about?
Okay, versus doing dragnets against an entire minority population and mass surveillance against an entire minority population. That is what I'm against. I am in favor of re-education and rehabilitation for those.
Minders would draw in close, straining to hear every word. It's hard to know why Chinese authorities have shifted to subtler methods of controlling the region. Why is Hasan citing this article, bro? It may be that searing criticism from the West, along with punishing political and commercial sanctions, have pushed authorities to lighten up. Or it may simply be that China judges it has come far enough in its goal of subduing the Uyghurs and other mostly Muslim minorities to relax its grip.
Apparently that was the rest of the article Hasan was reading, or some of it.
Those who have actually done severe crimes. I think that is an infinitely better way to deal with that than to just fucking execute them or to imprison them like we do in the United States of America. This is a consistent position that I have maintained. That is what I'm against. I am in favor of re-education and rehabilitation for those who have actually done severe crimes. I think that is an infinitely better way to deal with that than to just fucking execute them or to imprison them like we do in the United States of America.
What does he think these Uyghur people were being imprisoned for? Does he think that all of them just happen to be doing crimes? I don't understand what he's even trying to say here. Okay.
This is a consistent position that I have maintained throughout my entire fucking political commentary career. This is part of the reason why I'm also endlessly charitable to people who have done thought crimes, who have been reactionary from time to time, because I believe that we are, subject to social conditioning. Okay?
Okay.
Now, it doesn't make any sense, but I'll just start out by saying we're 8 minutes in and his research is not so great. He doesn't prove his point at all. He brings up all of these other articles that have come out after this conversation in an effort to imply that my article actually did not exist at all and that these things are still happening. But I'm willing to bet that if we were to look at these articles, even if they came after our conversation, we would find out that the articles itself were talking about what China was doing before they ended the mass detention structure that they had. This is a UK independent body. China committed genocide in Xinjiang. An independent, unofficial body set up by a prominent British barrister to assess the evidence on China's alleged rights abuses against the Uyghur genocide concluded Thursday the Chinese government committed genocide and crimes against humanity. This is the only article that says that China did a genocide. Okay? The Uyghur Tribunal, made up of lawyers, academics, and business people, doesn't have any government backing or powers to sanction or punish China, but organizers hope the process of publicly laying out evidence will compel international action to tackle Beijing's policies against the Uyghurs, a largely Muslim ethnic group. Tribunal Chair Jeffrey Nice said the genocide ruling was based on evidence that the Chinese government's forced birth control and sterilization policies targeting Uyghurs in the far western Xinjiang province were intended to destroy a significant part of the group's population. The abuse was part of the comprehensive policies directly linked to President Xi Jinping and the highest levels of Chinese government, it said. Now, this is not a real court. This is not the ICC. This is not the ICJ. This is simply, it's not even a people's tribunal, which does happen, okay? Brace, friend of the show, Brace Belden, YPJ terrorist, Brace Belden, has actually participated in a people's tribunal, I believe, against the former Duterte leadership. I think it was the Duterte leadership, if I'm not mistaken. There has been an intention to destroy the act of interfering with the birth of a group. About 30 witnesses and experts gave evidence to a series of public hearings in central London this year alleging torture, forced abortions, rape, beatings by authorities while in state detention centers. The tribunal concluded that it was beyond the doubt that the crimes against humanity were committed. Nice said she and other senior officials bear primary responsibility for what has occurred in Xinjiang. Once again, I don't see the organ harvesting or the execution camps that Ethan was talking about here. This is still unacceptable. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was talking to your mom. Alleging torture, forced abortions, rape, and beatings by authorities. The hearing also reviewed large amounts of documents detailing other policies, including the separation of young children from their families and widespread destruction of mosques. But he's like, but I don't see the thing about the organ harvesting, so I don't know what the fuck. I don't know why Ethan has got such a big problem. Like, it seems like, maybe there was some bad stuff, but like, no worries. He's like, he's so tunneled in on that one fucking claim. Holy shit.
Okay. Completely unacceptable and not a part of considering that I don't actually agree with the Chinese detention structure that exists in Xinjiang, this is not even against my position. My position was literally,
Go back 30 seconds. He says that the court who claimed genocide was a people's court and not the ICJ based.
Literally, that Ethan is wrong about Chinese death camps. Okay? Chinese death camps and forced organ harvesting. These were fabulous claims being made. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So exhausting.
Why did you skip over the Chinese embassy statement? Tanky propaganda is the tribunal and so-called conclusions are merely clumsy and shows staged by anti-China elements for their self-entertainment. Anyone with conscience and reason will not be deceived or fooled. Yeah, the Chinese government, if I was pro-China, I will give you what the pro-China position is, okay? The pro-China position is that these separatist elements in Xinjiang are radical Islamist fundamentalists that were propped up by the CIA, and there is a little bit of truth to that as well, but that doesn't matter, okay? Because it doesn't matter in the way that they dealt with this issue, okay? The Chinese Uyghur separatist terrorists were actually doing mass slaughter, doing unimaginable amounts of terrorist attacks all over China, and certainly in Xinjiang as well. So that's the reason why they had to do roundups and very targeted roundups and create vocational schools where these guys were simply getting educated for vocational training. That's not my position at all. As a matter of fact, I've argued against that position quite frequently, okay? That is a lie. That is an exaggeration by a state that makes it seem as though their completely warrantless and unjustifiable detention structure was actually simply justifiable and was working towards rehabilitation. I don't agree with that position. I think that's a classic moment where a state lies, right? The Chinese state also has the capacity to lie. They're not infallible. There are plenty of issues with the Chinese state. Wow. Now,
thanks, Hasan.
This doesn't mean that I'm defending the Chinese practice of mass detention anyway. And ironically enough, the article that we were talking about here also features this. To China's fury, UN accuses Beijing of Uyghur rights abuses. Remember, Ethan actually posted this as an
cringe,
own.
Ethan.
In that fucking same article that he posted, if he had actually read that article, he would see this part where it says, Beijing has closed many of the camps which are called vocational training and education centers, but hundreds of thousands of people continue to languish in prison, many in vague secret charges. The report called on China to release all individuals arbitrarily detained to clarify the whereabouts of those who have disappeared and whose families are seeking information about them. There's never been a moment where I did not claim that there weren't serious human rights violations in the Xinjiang region, just like UN Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez believes the assessment clearly identifies serious human rights violations in the Xinjiang region. I agree that there were serious human rights violations in the Xinjiang region. There's never been a moment where I've actually defended the serious human rights violations in the Xinjiang region.
I'm so sorry. I'm just not following. Wait, so what is Hasan's point here? Hasan is truly just centered on Ethan said death camp. There's not necessarily maybe death camps, but there's all these other things that are all bad and definitely horrible and like are basically the exact same thing that was furthering Ethan's point. But because Ethan said death camp, I'm just going to fight to the death on that one particular thing. Is that?
So why did Ethan, one, do a horrible job? Why did he do a horrible job of not reading his own fucking articles that he posted in here? Okay. This is, and yes, you are right, KO Fishy. This is exactly like when I denied or went after atrocity propaganda in the aftermath of October 7. There was plenty of real atrocities that took place on October 7, but Israel greatly increased the intensity of atrocity propaganda in an effort to justify its genocidal ambitions that came immediately after October 7. What did they do in the process? They lied about 40 beheaded babies being lit on fire with kerosene.
By the way, that's misinformation that he's saying. Israel never made that 40 beheaded baby claim. There's a whole Substack writing where that claim came from. I want to say it was like a French news org that ended up posting it originally, and it was, I think there was like 40 dead babies, and then there was like a beheaded baby, and somehow this got combined, and then foreign media started pushing this idea. I don't know if any Israeli media ended up picking it up eventually. I wouldn't say they did, but it did not originate like as a Mossad propaganda or an Israeli propaganda talking point. So Hasan is lying there, but
and numerous other issues. And I was very critical of that propaganda because there was plenty of real atrocities that they could point to, but they wanted to make it seem like there was so much more. And that didn't mean that I was actually defending the actions that took place on October 7, but you would obviously believe that if you're a fucking moron, or if you are trying to present a very different reality, a reality where you want to fit me into an unnuanced perspective.
Wow.
Now, what's ironic here is...
It was a French reporter misspeak, and then Israel reposted it. Gotcha.
It's twofold. One, my mother's maiden name is Uyghur, okay? Uyghurs are Turks. They are Turkic. Not the whole, like, the whole world is Turk memes. I'm saying, like, literally, they are a Turkic people, okay? Not only that, which is why I also jokingly say I'm white Chinese, okay? But not only that, but also the Turkish government does actually train them. The Turkish government does actually train a lot of Uyghur fighters and uses them alongside the Salafist brigades that they've trained in Syria. This is real, and they do this under the watchful eye of the United States of America. This is also real. I am very familiar with...
At this point, we shouldn't even acknowledge Hasan. There's literally no point in humoring him. He's a propagandist. There's no point in analyzing him or debating him. I mean, you kind of have to pay attention to him because he's the largest left-leaning political voice on Twitch. I hate that there's no popular liberal voice on Twitch. You've got Hasan, who's basically a Marxist-Leninist, a tanky, and then you've got Asmongold, who's basically a 100% bought and paid for Trump dick suck. And there's just any liberal streamer is less than 500 viewers. There's just no liberal, strong, big liberal voices on Twitch. Feels amazing, man.
With the Uyghur separatist groups for this region, okay? if I can't correct misinformation with my podcast co-host without getting called a propagandist for China, then what the fuck am I supposed to do? Just let it happen? Just let him just say this? Let him say whatever the fuck he wants? It's ridiculous. And he did this exact same thing. He did this exact same thing when I corrected his dangerous misinformation that's going to come later, where he talks about Hezbollah and the 500,000 casualties in the Syrian civil war. We'll get to that later, though.
Okay.
About the human rights violations in Xinjiang.
It's the tourism hour.
To China's fury, UN accuses Beijing of Uyghur rights abuses.
Tourism hour.
Uyghur County in China has the highest prison rate in the world. 1 in 25 people is in a Chinese prison.
It's the tourism hour.
48 Uyghurs detained in Thailand for racist. Reading on this and has regurgitated it to his mainstream audience. Why is he defending China?
I wasn't, and I never have. And you're wrong for claiming that I have. Your entire premise here is that they had death camps. You did not prove that. That there was organ harvesting. You didn't prove that either. And then you turned around and said, I'm defending China. I never did. I never defended China. Not in any of these conversations. Describing the actual horrifying conditions while also saying that they're horrifying conditions and completely unacceptable is not defending China. It's only defending China if you have a Steven Crowder-style approach to fucking global conflict, where you're like, wait a minute, you're offering some nuance while also still criticizing the Chinese government?
Whenever Hasan does it, it's nuance, but when the other side does it, it's apologia, right? Maybe we should be a little bit less one-dimensional when we look at Israel-Palestine. No, that's genocide. Apologia. You're apologizing for genocide. It's a genocide. It's an ongoing genocide. Okay, gotcha. But when he wants to say, okay, Uyghur, organ harvesting, what, are we saying fetuses are organs now? Come on, guys. Then it's nuance.
You must be defending China.
China's genocide of their Muslim population. How does this even make sense? It only makes
He still hasn't fucking, offered additional claims to this genocide. Now, what's really interesting about this is, and I have to talk about my second position here.
Uh-oh.
There is one thing that I've maintained throughout this entire process, and that is that while Ethan on the one hand talks about how China is genociding the Uyghur Muslims, his position on Israel genociding the Palestinians always goes back and forth. He is sometimes called...
Hasn't he always basically called it a genocide, or he said basically as much? I feel like because I don't like his position. I think his position is cucked on it, but I feel like Ethan has basically always had this position.
But a war, and sometimes offered concessions to why it truly is a genocide. Okay? So it's very hard to pin him on this position. So you have to focus on what he actually is doing whenever he talks about Israel. What kind of defenses he's engaging with respect to Israel. Is he actually offering nuance to Israel's military actions, or is he simply running defense for Israel's military actions? Okay? Because I did not defend the Chinese government's mass detention facilities. I've called it a cultural genocide before, as a matter of fact, over and over again. Now, one thing that I have to make clear here, and this is another thing that I've talked about over and over again.
We're 8.5 minutes in.
If Israel treated the Palestinian population in the same unjustifiable manner that China treated Xinjiang, Israel would get a Nobel Peace Prize every year going forward. Every Western nation would turn around and cherish how wonderful and how peaceful of a nation state Israel actually is for taming the savage, barbaric Palestinians. They would talk about how incredible Israel is for actually simply doing mass detention and mass surveillance upon the captive Palestinian population and not slaughtering them. If Israel started to do China-style mass surveillance and mass detention tomorrow on all Palestinians, both in the West Bank and also...
This is just so not true for so many different reasons, but whatever, okay.
In Gaza, literally every American would be doing tricks on it. They would talk about Benjamin Netanyahu being the most peaceful person on the planet. Okay? Jesus. So think about what it takes for people to say China is doing death camps and as an exterminationist...
Like, in that same article that you were reading that you were so happy was supporting you, that same article was saying they were doing like fucking forced abortions and rapings and beatings. Like, is that really what you're going with? Okay.
Principle and doing organ harvesting, as opposed to how much it takes for people to even come to terms with the genocide that Israel is committing. China never...
So why do you have the most random collection of letters for your ship names? My flying ships are named after Gundams. And then I think these letters are colonies in Alien. I think Fiorina 161 is the mining colony in Alien 3. And I think LV 410 is the planet, I think, in Alien 1.
Never bombed
Suck my dick.
Entire city blocks. China never shut off humanitarian aid. As a matter of fact, one of the most ironic statements throughout this entire fucking process was the fact that China was also still committed to developing Xinjiang as it is everywhere else, including in Tibet as well.
Developing it. Oh my God.
But the American perspective on this has always been they are trying to develop these areas to continue destroying them, to continue killing them. There was literally an Associated Press article that I read talking about a high-speed rail line going all the way to Xinjiang, basically creating this massive network of high-speed rail that was seen as...
Do you have any idea how much Germany maintained its high-speed train system? I don't know if you'd call it high-speed rail, but their train system for all the Jews they were shipping around? That was some pretty efficient shit, boys.
That was portrayed as a negative thing. People in
the trains.
Xinjiang still have freedom to travel in that regard. Okay.
They did not have freedom to travel. They were being locked in detention camps. What are you talking about?
Under the HUCO system, which needs desperate reform, there are obviously limitations to travel and how much you can, internally travel inside of China. But many of these people that are criticizing me don't even know what the fuck that is anyway. And they're now going to Google it and be like, Hasan didn't bring this up, or talk about the severity of the structure.
I like it. I love how anytime Hasan is like on a fact that he thinks is like really unique to him, or that the other person knows, like, take your hands off the keyboard. Let me see. I bet you didn't know that. I bet you didn't know this. Like this thing that he Googled like 2 hours earlier.
Okay. Whew. We are at $71,000. I'm going to obviously increase the. I'm going to obviously increase the Tiltify donos. Hold on. Where the frick?
Also, I love that the charity that he's using to shield himself here is a charity for his friend. Is this even a charitable donation, or is it just a donation to their boxing event? I don't even know. Is this even charity? Actually, I don't even know if this is a charitable donation. Is it? It's straight to the charity. Okay, interesting. What is the charity? Is it a cancer charity? Someone said it's for cancer, I think.
I get to my account. My hub campaigns. Hold on, guys. Hold on. How do I? How do I change the goal? Is it not allowed? Can I not change the goal after the campaign actually? Oh, here, I'm changing it. I'm doubling it. Double or nothing, baby.
Good job. My God.
Boom. We're only 8 minutes and 32 seconds into the video, and we've already fundraised $72,000.
Yes, fundraiser,
Are you still
boys.
giving money so you will stop this torture? What? Okay.
Don't criticize me. I'm fundraising
You're
here.
getting me from
How can you
H3 High
criticize
New
me?
Father.
How the fuck can you criticize me? I'm fucking fundraising.
So one must ask the question, why Ethan Klein refuses to actually engage in any of the things that I'm saying, uses out of context clips, and also simultaneously has a very different standard for what China's doing as opposed to what Israel is doing. Okay?
True. All true.
What the fuck's going on here? It doesn't make any sense. I'm actually morally consistent on this process. He's the one who's not.
True.
Now, isn't Israel's activity in between lawn mowings essentially what China does in its worst moments? Exactly. That's why I brought that up.
True.
If China did what Israel did to Xinjiang, we would nuke China. Okay? Understand something. If China did what Israel did to the Palestinians in Xinjiang, we would nuke China tomorrow. And if Israel did what China did in Xinjiang as a part of its like rehabilitation or re-education vocational training campaign or whatever the fuck the Chinese government calls it, they would consider that to be a pathway towards infinite peace. Can you imagine where Palestinians will now have freedom of travel into other parts of Israel, into greater Israel, mass detention and the subsequent re-education inside of these like supposed vocational training schools or whatever, but then in the aftermath of that they have full-blown citizenship and access to the same fucking resources? That would never happen in a million years. Netanyahu would get a Nobel Peace Prize. Netanyahu would get every single Nobel Peace Prize for the rest of time.
Yikes, misspoke. Automatically wrong on every point. See ya.
Also, speaking of organ harvesting, I mean that's but that's besides the point.
Sense if A, he's being paid, or B, he has the political complexities of a 5-year-old. I know America Bad is a meme that people laugh at online, but with Hasan, this does actually seem to be the beginning and the end of his analysis.
Two principles. Let me explain to you. 2 principles that you should keep with you.
Yeah, so this is a classic. This is something that I hear mostly from Sex Pestin and his orbiters. But the idea that like my commentary on political matters is simply reduced to America Bad is incredibly, incredibly dumb. It's ironic that this is yet another case of.
Does anybody have the clip of Hasan saying whatever the U.S. State Department's position is on a thing, if you take the opposite, you're probably safe? Or does Ethan show that in his content, Nuke?
Pure projection, where Ethan is saying, oh, his commentary is just literally America Bad.
Oh.
At no point, if I simply stated America Bad over and over and over again, how the fuck would I fill 8 hours of space every goddamn day? Why is it that these people never actually make the argument America Good? Why is it that these people never actually dive deeper into why I say America Bad, for example? And this is, once again, obviously a reductive clip out of 8 hours of space every goddamn day. Why is it that these people never actually make the argument America Good? Why is it that these people never actually dive deeper into why I say America Bad, for example? And this is, once again, obviously a reductive clip out of context where I'm describing a complex position. Let's take a look.
Coming from a person who's Turkish, okay? When you look at a situation in the Middle East, you look at what the local government is and who the Western forces are. Never align with the Western forces. So when I look at other countries, I look at the regional actor, whoever the regional power player is, and then I look at who is backed by the Western superpowers. That's a principle that you could take home with you if you want to actually be moral or if you want to be smart about the way.
As I've said before, time and time again, okay, from both my own personal experiences and, I'm Turkish, okay? Turkey is a NATO nation. Turkey is the way that it is specifically because Turkey is a NATO nation. Do you understand?
What? Wait, hold on. Excuse me. Excuse me. What? He is not about to blame all of the past baseness of the Turks on NATO, is he? Hold on. Wait, what?
And in that process, during the Cold War, because it was supposed to be a bulwark against the growing socialist movement in the country, they actually suppressed Kurdish liberation movements, socialist movements, trade unionist movements. The American government, by way of the CIA, created a right-wing ultra-nationalist paramilitary, the MHP Party. Okay, the MHP Party, the Grey Wolves. This, you know how Ethan's community will fucking call me out for like, oh, he did this. He's actually secretly a Turkish ultranationalist.
You know that like Turkey had a whole bunch of problems. Like the Arabs did not like the Turks under the Ottoman Empire. Okay, they thought that they were oppressive. Also, the Armenian genocide happened way before fucking NATO was involved. Okay, this is under the Turkish Ottoman Empire. So I don't know where he gets his idea that all the bad things in Turkey literally just came from the United States. Like, also, Turkey today doesn't even represent the same views in conflict all the time, at least from my feeling, that the U.S. has. For instance, Turkey fucking hates Kurdish people, and they'll bomb them whenever the fuck they get the opportunity to.
You can only arrive at that position if you're a fucking moron. I have, again, countless hours of talking about the history of the MHP Party and how the CIA did an Operation Gladio like they did in Italy, but in Turkey with the MHP ultranationalist paramilitary groups that they violently sent to destroy any sort of trade unionist, socialist, or workers' movement. Many of those movements comprised of Kurds that wanted their own version of Kurdish liberation movements, as a matter of fact. MHP was responsible for that. MHP is still a part of the governing coalition alongside the AKP in Turkey right now. The ultra-nationalist fascists are still in power in this country, in my country. Okay?
Wow.
We have officially reached the boundary of $75,000. I'm very proud of you guys.
Good job, guys. Clap. So proud of you guys. You did it.
There's more I wanted to... There's more I wanted to get into. Bro, you're making this unwatchable. I know. Context and nuance is silly.
So much context.
Way you analyze
so much
other
nuance.
countries, that's one basic principle that you can take home with you. All of a sudden, magically, you are above on your foreign policy analysis. You're going to be better off than 90% of people that look at the situation.
After seeing all of this, I was already getting uncomfortable with our partnership. I started to wonder if I had...
Also, I don't think he saw any of this. He didn't see any of this. He already arrived at the position that I was bad after an entire year of fucking shitting on me with snide remarks as I was actively defending him in the process. For all the fucking foot soldiers that are in here to see the other side of the story for once, welcome. Okay, I have an 8-minute compilation that he couldn't even sit through where I was defending Ethan Klein, including this is, I guess, from what, January 11th, 2024. Ethan was hitting me with snide remarks over and over and over again while I was simultaneously defending him. Okay, I was simultaneously defending him from people that kept bringing him up and saying like, oh, he said this, he said that. I didn't want to be fucking focusing on drama. Okay?
Drama,
I did not
guys.
want to entertain the drama perverts because I thought it was irrelevant what Ethan Klein was saying because I assumed that he was just doing goofs and gaffes. In any case, we'll get to that in a little bit as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the entire premise here so far in the 9 minutes and 39 seconds that we watched is that Ethan is saying Hasan Piker groomed me, a 40-year-old man with the political convictions of a sea cucumber. I had no way of thinking on my own, and this 30-year-old man at the time groomed me into believing dangerous radical ideas. Dangerous radical ideas like what, you might ask? Socialism.
Remember, Hasan says that he tries to do this. This is literally Hasan's stated goals. So he can sit here and make fun of Ethan for this, but this is explicitly what Hasan tries to do.
Socialism being good. He made too many convincing arguments. He was hot and he groomed me and it scared me. It scared what happened to me. Scary man. Stupid, sexy Hasan.
Any idea who this guy actually is?
And then this happened.
We have breaking news out of Israel this morning where Hamas has launched a surprise attack within Israel's borders.
Like, this is bullshit. This is a video that he made a year after our podcast ended, okay? He developed this resentment over the course of the year. He didn't like start hearing me say these things that I was saying directly to him and see it in a different light. This is pure narrative.
We literally did. We watched on stream, by the way, and I even remarked that it was insane, where Hasan would just say the craziest things. That re-education comment joke, or not joke, that serious thing that he said about like, oh yeah, well, we just re-educate these people. It's like, bro, why would you say this? Hello? There was the re-education comments, the thing about Tibet, like he would say so many crazy things. We watched this happen in real time on his stream. Holy fuck.
Okay? Pure narrative. He's doing post hoc rationalizations, and I think the reason why he's doing these post hoc rationalizations is because he wants to convince you, the viewer, to being like, he duped me, and he was duping you with his scary, elusive, mysterious ways of doing propaganda. The real story of what took place is that in the aftermath of October 7, okay, in the aftermath of October 7, we had disagreements. We had significant disagreements. Ethan wanted to hyper-focus on the feelings of Israelis and potentially the fears of American Jews in the aftermath of October 7. And my argument always was hyper-focusing on the broader picture because I knew what was about to happen. Because history, contrary to what Hosmer is like to tell you, did not start on October 7, 2023.
It actually started on in 1967 on June 12th. Fuck, when did the war end? I'm sorry, June 10th. Fuck me.